The Tigers have a nationally televised spring training game, and they score 17 runs. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the storylines out of that game, because there actually is quite a few. And then we will discuss Dillon Dingler's 2025 campaign, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, March 6th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That was a solid one. Not even going to lie to you. Welcome in. Happy Thursday, everybody. The Detroit Tigers won 17-7 against the Philadelphia Phillies on ESPN, nationally televised spring training game. Almost threw an absolute toddler level temper tantrum when there was a rain delay to start it off. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. The Tigers are finally on TV in spring. It's national TV at that. National cable for spring ball. And then it gets pushed, an hour and a half because of rain. Almost lost it, but didn't. And the Tigers certainly at no point were ever close to losing it. That's a pro transition right there. We're up 12-0 after the third inning. We're up 6-0 after the second inning. So pretty dominant performance. Now, I say all of this, 17 runs, whatever, half tongue-in-cheek, maybe even a little bit more. If I am going to talk about how the big losses in spring don't matter, then the big wins in spring don't really matter to me either. That being said, it's always nice to see a big crooked number up there for the Detroit Tigers, really, no matter what the context is. But again, ultimately spring training, I don't think the offense is going to be a juggernaut now because they scored 17 runs against the Phillies spring training team on March 5th. You know what I'm saying? That's all. A lot of kind of interesting storylines to come out of this game, however, and some players individually that I think there's two big ones, and we're going to bookend them. We'll start with Jamai Jones, who I think is one of the biggest storylines to come out of this game, and then we'll end with Matt Manning, who I think is on the opposite end, also one of the bigger storylines to come out of this game. And then there's a whole bunch in the middle, starting with Jones. Played center field in this game. If he went 0 for, that would have been noteworthy, right? If this dude went up there and went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, it still would have been noteworthy that he was the starting center fielder and leadoff hitter in this game. They might need a center fielder. They might. Right? That is not out of the question that the Tigers require a center fielder for opening day. And we talked about Kreidler yesterday and how he's been getting a lot of reps in center field. Jamai Jones hasn't played center field in a minute, at least on a consistent basis. Went out there today, went 3 for 2. That'd be really impressive. Went 2 for 3, rather, with 4 RBIs via a grand slam home run, and in his 4th plate appearance, drew a walk. His spring numbers, he is now hitting 278 with an OPS over 1,100. Obviously, not going to hold that level of production in the regular season. However, he has looked really, really sharp, and for a team that is down 2 outfielders, by the end of February, they were down 2 outfielders. And we got 3 weeks left, a little bit over 3 weeks left. There's time. Hopefully Parker Meadows and that nerve issue, it doesn't seem to be a long-standing issue. Once it's fixed, and that's great news. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully Matt Vierling is only out for the first couple of weeks of the season. But there is a reality where the Tigers don't have an everyday center fielder, at least on opening day. And Riley Green, obviously, we know can fill that void. They're still going to need somebody else that can play the position. And while I'm not sure I'm ready to like project Jamai Jones to make the opening day roster, I'm not sure on tomorrow's roster projection. I haven't done it yet. Maybe I guess we'll see how the math kind of works out. But like I don't anticipate I'll have him making the roster necessarily. That being said, if those two injuries are longer term things and he continues producing and looking the way he has so far, want to see more defensively, but like he hasn't been bad defensively either. I just literally need to see more. And I think there is a chance. I know that some of the beat writers were talking about it as well. I think it's super fair, especially considering the alternative to that is, I don't know, outside of Riley Green again, obviously, is like Zach McKinstry getting some reps. He got some reps in center field in this game, actually. Again, Ryan Kreidler. If Jones get hit, he might just hit his way onto some playing time here to start off the season. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, again, a big part of that is just going to be Parker Meadows' health in general, but had a fantastic game, Jamai Jones did. And I really think that you're going to see him get a lot of playing time in center field kind of the rest of spring training. And with first cuts looming, presumably today as you're listening to this, because the Tigers have an off day on Thursday. I mean, you just might see him make it to the last round of cuts, and yeah, we'll see, man. I don't know. I like it. Love a story like that. The Tigers also hit back-to-back home runs at one point in this ball game. Jamai Jones grand slam, Andy Ibanez off of a lefty, and then Gleyber Torres hits his first home run, rocking the Old English D. So all three of those together, I think they were on three consecutive pitches, if I'm remembering right. I think it was Jamai Jones grand slam and then first pitch. Maybe I'm not right about the Gleyber one, I guess. But they were all in unison and all very, very quickly after each other. That's always fun to see, even if it is a spring training game. Good for Gleyber. You know, he hasn't really done too much at the plate since, which like isn't a worrisome thing. He's hit kind of always. We've done his player preview. We've talked about him. But it is nice. You know, you want that bat to wake up at least before opening day. So nice to see him send one over the wall. Javi, I thought, had a great day. He still had a couple of at-bats with runners either on base or in like semi-decent situations and didn't do anything with it. But final stat line on the day is 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs and a walk. We will gladly take that from Javier Baez all season. I would beg on my knees, beg for Javi to put up numbers like that all season. So we'll see where that takes us. We'll see if that's anything more than just, facing a spring training caliber pitcher, or if that's, a sign of things to come. Obviously, just one game. I'm not going to draw any conclusions from that, but good to see at a minimum as well. And then Kerry Carpenter getting a knock off of a lefty. Gets thrown a fastball low and inside, gets inside on the pitch, sends it the other way. Really nice to see. Hopefully that is also a sign of things to come. We really want Kerry Carpenter to hit lefties very, very, very badly. Glad that he got an opportunity. Glad he got an opportunity on TV. Didn't look completely overpowered or lost or like he was guessing up there. Got a pitch that he thinks he could hit. Blooped it into left field. We will take it. Not super hard contact. Didn't destroy the baseball. Solid enough. Got the ball out of the infield. Good for him. Hopefully he, like I said, continues getting those opportunities. Want to talk about a couple more hitters. Then we'll talk Reese Olson, who started this game and looked fantastic. Then we'll talk Matt Manning. Okay. We'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. They are the absolute best. Again, personally, I absolutely love the no-shell variety, the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days for me, whether I'm snacking at my desk, at work, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow as we do roster projection 2.0 with the Tigers off day on Thursday. We'll kind of talk about what we are looking out for going into the weekend, but really just kind of looking ahead for the rest of spring training, obviously, in there as well. Speaking of this 17-7 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies, however, Thomas Nido, obviously had the big home run, but he's been solid behind the plate. I think all spring he's obviously hit very well, but I think that this is a guy that the organization is really hoping they can keep in AAA throughout the season, right? The odds that both of your catchers stay 100% healthy throughout an entire year these days are rather slim. That's why every team tries to get two good catchers, right? It's basically like a platoon, kind of permanent platoon at this point. The days of 140, 150, 160 game catchers are kind of behind us now. So I think that he's not going to make the roster out of camp, barring an injury to somebody ahead of him. He's not going to leapfrog Dingler, who we'll talk about today, or Jake Rogers. But I do think that he looks good enough back there where the Tigers are going to be asking him, like, hey, can you please be the starting catcher, depending on where all the prospects end up, but a prominent part of the Mud Hens kind of lineup. And whenever the Tigers need him, injury, whatever, then he would be the first call up for catching. I think that that's kind of where I'm leaning with him. He's had a great spring training. Talking on the pitching side of things, Reese Olson started this game 3 innings, 1 hit, no walks, 4 strikeouts, a fantastic day at the office, just the 1 base runner. All the stuff looked great. And that is a continuation of his last outing, right? Where we talked about the fact that the velocity is up. It's still up. He was throwing 96, 97 with the fastball. Even the slider and the changeup, the secondary stuff was all upticked in velocity as well. That is all beautiful. We will take it. We love it. His slider looked amazing, as it literally has his entire career. If you remember our conversation yesterday, my one complaint, that seems like too dramatic of a word. He's a great pitcher and I love him dearly. The one area of improvement, I guess I'll say, that I pointed out on yesterday's show with him was the fastball. And in this outing, his fastball was not very effective, despite the fact that it was faster than it was a year ago. He threw 11 fastballs. Only one of them did not get made contact with. Wow, that was English for sure. 10 of the 11, the batter made contact with. 10 of the 11. The one was a swing and miss. He got 1 swing and miss on the fastball. Literally every other four-seam fastball, at least, that he threw in this game, the bat hit the ball. It was either foul ball or it was put in play. Now, no damage was done. He didn't give up any hard contact with it. He also threw the sinker in there, which, as we found out last year, he's very good at keeping the ball on the ground with it. But that's still something I'm waiting for, kind of the next step to be taken there. And I still think he can do it this year. This is 3 innings of spring training baseball in March. We'll see as we get closer and closer to opening day and when the regular season starts, how that fastball ends up developing and looking. He's still ramping up. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions yet. Just an observation from a conversation that we literally just had on this show 24 hours ago. Want to talk Matt Manning, then we'll move on to Dillon Dingler's preview for the 2025 season. I genuinely, this is the other biggest storyline of the entire game for me. He goes 2 innings, 3 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and gives up 2 home runs. Brutal, obviously, kind of goes without saying. His ERA on the spring is now 12. We talked about how he struggled in an outing last week as well. I am wondering if there is a chance that Matt Manning doesn't even stay on the roster by opening day. And I don't mean the major league roster. I mean I feel like there is an outside chance. I still am not sure I'd say it's likely. But I was talking to some other people in the Tigers media world about this, and like some of them were bringing it up too. It's like I'm not if he keeps looking like this, I'm genuinely not sure the Tigers are even going to hold on to him, period, through spring training. He's obviously not going to make the opening day roster for the second year in a row. But as we talked about back in roster projection 1, this is a really fascinating year for Matt Manning because he only has one minor league option left. So after this year, after opening day, when they would presumably send him down to Toledo, he's then out of options after that move is done. So it's kind of at like decision-making time almost anyways. I would say trade him, but like I don't think he really has any trade value. Which sounds harsh, but what has he done in the last 12 months? Literally 12. What has he done in the last calendar year that if you were another organization, you would want to acquire Matt Manning right now? The only reason you would do it is banking on previous assessments, banking on the fact that he was once a top 25 prospect in baseball and that everyone loved his stuff and that his fastball was great. Now, I remember when he was first drafted, it was the curveball. Like you would just be going based on pedigree and just hoping. And I don't think that that's going to get you, the Tigers, at least too much value in return either. I don't know. I think they're at a really fascinating point, not exactly in a positive connotation with Matt Manning. I hope he can figure it out, man. I really hope he can figure it out and figure it out here. I genuinely think there's a reality where the Tigers have a pitcher on their roster that they want. Sorry, there's a pitcher not on their 40-man roster that they want to add to the 40-man out of camp. And they're looking around going, who do we DFA? And Matt Manning's the decision. He might clear waivers right now. Just something to think about and something to keep an eye out for as we continue on in spring training. I don't think anything's going to happen like tomorrow, but he's looked really rough so far this camp. Let's talk Dillon Dingler. Dillon Dingler, just a fun name to say. One of the best names in baseball. The rookie from 2024 made his debut, obviously, after Carson Kelly was traded at the deadline. Gets called up. The Tigers, well, I was going to say best catching prospect. I think going into 2024 that was true, but by the trade deadline probably was no longer true with Lorenzo. So interesting, depending on what day you pick, was the Tigers' best catching prospect. Is now 26 years old, turned 26 in September of last year. And yeah, his rookie year wasn't great at the plate. Goes kind of without saying. If you watch the Tigers in any capacity down the stretch, you're very well aware of that fact. He had 167 with a 195 on base percentage, a 310 slug. That is a 505 OPS. That is Javi territory for offensive metrics. Just the one home run, drove in 11 runners. Trying to think of any other stats I can kind of throw at you, just kind of base level stuff. We can get into the analytical side. Whiff rate, K rate, walk rate, none of them extremely good. Chase rate, not particularly good. Just kind of the only thing he really did decent at, and you can tell if you just look at the slugging percentage, really, but Thankfully, we have a lot more numbers to help us come to this conclusion these days. The only thing he did well was when he did hit the ball, which was somewhat rare, but when he did hit the ball, he hit it very hard. Had a really good hard hit rate, really solid average exit velo, all that kind of good stuff. But this is 87 plate appearances. This is fewer than 100 plate appearances, fewer than 85 at bats. So, like, this is not the player that Dillon Dingler is. I do not believe that. In AAA last year, before getting called up, he had a 308 average and a 938 OPS with 17 home runs in 71 games. Also, I think one of the exciting things about Dingler for me is the fact that I don't think he is a platoon player at the major league level. Jake Rogers has, while we did our player preview with Jake Rogers, he's had kind of a weird back and forth pendulum swing when it comes to the handedness of pitchers that he's good at. But traditionally, in Jake Rogers' professional career, he is better against lefties than righties. And I think that's what excites me about Dingler is that in the minor leagues, he hit both of them pretty well, especially as he got higher and higher up through the minor league system. So I'm hoping that he works out. I think he will work out. Let's talk about some of the underlying numbers, what I'm expecting to see from him this year, and then his defense, obviously, as well. We will do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always. So, Dillon Dingler and his 2025 season. Want to start with the catching we saw from him last year. He was really solid, to be honest. Really solid. I really liked what I saw from him behind the plate. Had a lot of really good metrics to go along with that. Even if you're not a metrics person, just the eye test, I think he looked really comfortable back there. And I think that that is very important. I don't want to, well, it might be more important than his offense. Now, more important than his offense is like if he has a 220 average and a 650 OPS, not a 167 average and a OPS that's barely in the 500s. Those are two very different things. You have to be passable offensively to justify being kind of a glove first catcher. But I really do think he looks solid there, which is obviously very important. I think that the receiving was good. I didn't have too much of an issue from my memory, at least with the game calling. I think I complained a couple of times, maybe early on, but I really think he kind of caught on quickly. I also think that the pitching coaches work a ton with the catchers and put them in positions to succeed, right? So I think that there are stories from Carson Kelly about coming in and kind of the amount of information the Tigers pitching coaches have and what communicating what they want to see called in certain situations and whatnot. So I'm sure the coaching staff is helping him a ton, but some of that is your own intuition as well. And so I want to give him credit too. Athletic dude, not worried about getting in front of balls, blocking pitches, pop time, any of that stuff. I'm pretty confident that he will be a sound and pretty solid defensive catcher. The big question is just how much is he going to hit? And I don't know if I ever expect Dingler to be like an above league average hitting catcher. Because if he was that, right, if he ends up being like a 750, 770 OPS hitter and is as good defensively as I just laid out, then we're talking about a guy that could legitimately be one of the better catchers in the American League. Like that is the type of offensive production that catchers have traditionally. It's usually a relatively low bar. So if he can do that and give you a ton of plus on defense, he's going to rack up value and WAR and whatever metric you want to use. But I don't need him to be that. If he is that, awesome, please. The more the merrier. Lord knows this team needs offense and we could always use it. But even if he's around that 700 OPS mark, right? Even if he's just around a league average hitter, even slightly below league average hitter, I think that there's immense value in this player. And I think that he can be a really solid either once a series catcher, depending on how Jake Rogers does, even could work his way up into being more of a 50-50 platoon, a 50-50 split. It wouldn't be a true like righty-lefty platoon because they're both right-handed hitters. But as I mentioned, Dingler in his professional career, at least when he was younger, didn't particularly struggle once he got adjusted and acclimated to a level, didn't particularly struggle against righties. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what he can do this year because I think when people look down the stretch and they go like, wow, the Tigers need more offense, like Dingler won't have a 500 OPS again. I don't know what his OPS is going to be. I don't know what kind of offensive output we're going to get, but this dude had a 195 on base percentage. Like he's going to be better. How much better is just the question. And this is going to be his first full season. It's going to be a huge test for him. And if he can't adjust to major league pitching, because that's another thing that we talked about all the time last season and even at the beginning of the offseason when talking about Dingler, it was like, yeah, like this dude consistently at every level has been called up and then struggled offensively. And then once he gets the timing down, he kind of jumps back up. So I expect him to be better. I expect him to be much, much better than he was at the plate at least a year ago. And yeah, the like I said, the big question is just how much better. And if he can't adjust to major league hitting, then they'll go a different direction and he'll get sent down at some point this season. And I think he has an option left. If he doesn't, then they have an even tougher decision to make. But I think that's the plan. Like the plan is for Jake Rogers to be 1A, Dingler to be 1B. And if that doesn't work because of Dingler, then they're just going to move on to somebody else, I'd imagine. Also depends on like how good the team is. If the team's completely out of it, then they're just going to give the young kid reps and see if he can turn it around. If the Tigers are in it, maybe they're more inclined to get some outside catching help. I'm optimistic though. I think that he's always going to strike out probably a decent amount. I expect him to walk way more than he did in 2024. I'm not expecting a super high batting average out of him, but like he has hit the ball decently hard everywhere he's been. I don't know if he has like that 20 home run season that Jake Rogers had 2 seasons ago in him from behind the plate and 100 games or less than 100 games or whatever it was. But I think that you can get a guy that can consistently put the bat on the ball and hit the ball hard when he does that. And the defense, again, I'm really not worried about. I thought the footwork and the glove work behind the plate was fantastic a year ago. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow with roster projection 2.0 unless any other big news happens that we have to talk about instead. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.